Welcome to the Hangry Games Arena, where Kelly Brewster, the author of What's Eating You and host of the Hangry Games, is shaking up the weight loss world. She's providing you with tons of resources and helpful tips to obtain your long-term wellness and weight loss goals once and for all. The Hangry Games is recorded and produced at Open Space Studios.
Well, hello, my Hangry Game Nation. What is up? I know things look a little different. Do I look closer to you? Probably so. Today we have a super treat for you guys. You have been hearing me fly solo for several episodes now. So I figured it was about time to have a guest in the house. So now this isn't just any guest, okay? No. This is the co-founder and owner. She's trying to gradually work her way off.
I want to be off
it.
I'm used to being on the other side of the console.
She's the co-founder and owner of Open Space Studios, the home where Hangry Game Nation is recorded and produced. And yes, we have Candra George in the house.
Hi.
I am so excited.
I am too.
Woohoo! So Candra, thank you for hanging with the HG Nation today. This is my Thelma to Louise. She is definitely a ride and die friend. But I have also had the privilege of being her provider for several years. And so today we thought we would do something a little unorthodox. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually do a virtual patient appointment today. No, not that kind of appointment, okay? Just a regular appointment. And we're just going to work through some emotional eating issues, hence the reason why I have my lab coat on.
Yeah.
And overall weight loss and wellness updates and how to just achieve the healthy weight loss and good maintenance, kind of despite the issues that we may be going through and that's just kind of going on around us, right? I mean, we all have life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Can I have an amen in the house? Amen. And if you, for those of you that are in the cheap seats, life does happen, right? Yeah, yes, it does. So we are going to talk a little bit about when you are doing just tremendous on that journey, and then all of a sudden you have some situational stressors that just throw these big kinks into the plan, and then you're kind of sitting there just trying to pull all the pieces together and finding a place that you can get back on the track and start seeing some progress again. Candra is going to share some of her testimony in a few minutes, some of the issues she is kind of still dealing with a little bit, and how we can work together to get her back on the road to success. So to give you a little bit of a background, Candra is a professional photographer. She has worked with local and regional magazines. She has been a staff photographer for a previous president. She is an entrepreneur and a philanthropist. She's donated so much time and resources to many nonprofits such as the St. Tammany Pregnancy Crisis Center, the Good Samaritan Center, the Unite event, and that's just to name a few. I mean, I really only have so much time to actually do this.
Very sweet of you.
Well, but I mean, so I kind of rounded it up, but you got where I'm going with that. She has a heart of gold and loves to be a go-giver. And so welcome Candra to the studio, guys. Woo woo. Yes. Yay.
Thank you for that welcome.
Right? She's like, I'm going to be back next week.
Yeah, I didn't even pay her.
So Candra, before we get started with today's mock visit, would you like to just tell everyone a little bit about your testimony, your wellness and weight loss journey, and where you currently are in that walk?
Okay, so I think I would like to start with how we met a little bit.
Okay.
So, Kelly and I met speaking at a cancer event. I was a photographer for a cancer event. I did have cancer previously. I had thyroid cancer, and Kelly spoke ahead of me. She was there to speak on finding cancer and about the cancer journey. And I was there to speak on being in pictures after you don't feel like yourself, after you've lost your hair or whatever, and how kind of you see yourself in photos, or how versus how other people see, or what your family sees in photos. And she got up there and spoke and talked about how cancer is like in the boxing ring, and how sometimes it's a knockout, and how sometimes it's multiple rounds of a fight. And I remember listening to her and thinking, we are going to be best friends, and she doesn't even know my name yet. And walking up to her, it's like, I had a knockout. Mine was super easy. And I think I even used the analogy, like I spoke after you, and I was like, "Yep, no, that's exactly how mine was. I did not have the fight that most people had. Mine was really super easy." But anyway, that's how we met, and we became fast friends, and that was wonderful. And then later on, going through some life crisis after weight loss and weight gain, and then the yo-yo version of all of that.
I want to kind of call it, like, instead of the yo-yo, I think we need to start calling it a wrecking ball.
Don't you? No, I mean, definitely feels way more like a wrecking ball than a yo-yo.
Up and down. It's just more like,
Definitely feels more like a wrecking ball than a yo-yo. I was in the wrecking ball version of my life for sure. And I remember sitting in your office and telling you that, I was like, "Kelly, you have to help me." I said, "If you don't help me figure this out, I'm going to drive my car off a bridge." And I was just struggling so hard with my mental health and my weight. And I was like, this has to be hormones or internal or depression or something. But I couldn't handle life as it was at that moment. And that's where we started. And I think that that was a life-changing appointment for me.
I actually remember what room you were in.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
great.
crazy?
Yeah.
Like, I can actually, you're in room 4. I remember that. But I do remember this conversation.
Yeah.
And, but it was steps. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It's something that took some time to start, seeing the progress. Remember, we talk about that one step over time, that one small step over time does make a big difference at some point. So go on a little bit more about, because you talked about the ups and downs, but you obviously had a time where there was some significant weight loss for you.
Right, there was. And I think in that point in my life, I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted to have a second child. I have one son. It took us a long time to get him. I think ultimately you and I discussed PCOS and the issues that came along with that, and the emotional, sometimes our brain mimics what our body does, whether we perimenopause and all the fun things that go along with that.
Oh yes. That's a journey, my friends.
I love the analogy, and I've used this with my friends and family. You're like, "Candra, you're sputtering the gas. You're running out of gas." And so I would have a cycle, and then I wouldn't have one for months. And I would have a cycle, and then I wouldn't have one. And then I would have one forever.
Yeah, I wasn't too fond of those.
No.
Yeah, I was not.
You were so... I remember texting you, like, "Are you serious?
Get back in here.
Please quit texting me.
Please
quit texting me and just get in here."
Yes,
and you're like, "It's time. It's past time for hysterectomy. You got to give this up. You don't realize how sick you are." And being an entrepreneur and business owner and a mom, like, you just, you think those things are normal. You think this is just how I'm going to be feeling, right? You just think that's what's going to happen. And when I finally said, "Yes, no, it's time. I'm done." I think I had been on the cycle for 9 weeks at that point. It was ridiculous.
All I remember is it was like way beyond what we would like.
It was
It was beyond our comfort zone.
Yeah, no, it was really bad. And so I'm like, "No, I'm done. Please take everything out of me. I'm done." And that was also life-changing. And I lost 40 pounds as a result of just that surgery alone.
Now, the surgery, just so that you guys know, a hysterectomy does not cause you to, it's not a form of weight loss, but for her, she had a reproductive endocrinology condition called polycystic ovarian syndrome. I've had a conversation about this in the past, which is PCOS and insulin resistance. And it involves the ovaries and what the ovaries are not doing, and how the hormones, when they become irregular, what they're doing to the rest of the body. And they are affecting your metabolism and how your body processes things. And then, depending on what your BMI looks like, you will start to see other symptoms like hair growth and acne and waking in the midsection, and you just want to beat somebody for a ding dong. I told you I was going to get there anyway. And that's kind of what you're dealing with. So for her, when she had that surgery and the ovaries were removed, it corrected it for her. And so then she was basically on the same playing field as anyone else that had a couple pounds to lose. So she was not, now we're playing on the same playing field, and that's when I think you could start implementing some
Right.
strategies.
Right. So my body began to heal. And as it healed, it dropped 40 pounds. And,
Which is amazing. That's amazing.
It blew my mind.
But you did meal prep during that time.
I did. I
Yeah.
actually, I mean, obviously, I'd been through your class. I'd had you in my
She
year
did
enough.
all things. Okay.
Yes. I had her in my year enough. I realized at that point, like, oh no, it's time to start listening to Kelly. All of those things, the meal prep, the making good choices. And I wouldn't say that, I mean, I've never been one who's been super strict on anything, because you can't, I don't.
You're an orange, my friend. We're never really always going to be 100%.
We're very fluid.
Yes, we're gonna step out a little bit here and there.
Yeah. But I mean, making smart choices, knowing parameters, knowing when to quit, knowing and say, okay, like this is where the boundary is going to be, and that's where I'm going to go. I think that that was where I began, and then it just continued from there. And then I think when after I saw that weight loss and kind of hit a plateau, it's when I came for the next step, which was
I think you did the weekly GLP-1
mm-hmm.
and saw some additional success.
I did.
So overall lost about what, 60 pounds?
Yeah, about 65 pounds.
Okay, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing. She's got a little vertically challenged, so
yeah, just slightly. I hover optimistically.
We're like Bert and Ernie, you know. We're kind of like,
yeah.
you know, but incredible. She looks incredible, and you were feeling amazing though too. That's what really was
changed everything.
Yeah,
it changed everything. I'm a photographer, like she said. If I'm not in the studio here recording or working and doing portraits or what have you, commercial work, I'm doing 14-hour wedding days. And so that changed, that changes the game when you're carrying 30 pounds of equipment and running after people and chasing shots and all of those things. So it changes whenever you actually feel good and you can increase that stamina.
I mean, think from this perspective, you were carrying, 30 pounds of equipment, but then you're also carrying 30 pounds of extra weight.
Yeah.
Which
changes everything.
It does change. It changes everything. It really does. So here we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here we are.
We're now in our mock visit, our virtual visit. So Candra, you've had some recent situational stressors that have been, I would say, significant, and they've caused you to have more opportunity to emotionally eat. Is that correct?
Oh, that's
an understatement.
That's an understatement.
I'll let you.
Yeah. So
elaborate.
In the last, I will say this: the 65-pound weight loss was great. I have not had any of the injections in well over a year, so we have maintained. That is possible. I want people to know that if you do those injections and you do go off of those, maintenance is possible. But what has happened is I lost 2 people who were very dear to me to death, that passed away, and then I opened a new business. All the life things,
yes,
that could possibly happen have kind of happened. I opened a new business, and then unfortunately I'm also going through a divorce. And so when the parenting cycle kind of leveled out and my son would spend time with me and then he would go to his dad's, I found myself binge eating. And I
think everybody in the audience kind of, if you can't relate, I mean, you can change the channel. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, most people can relate to this. I mean, we've all had some significant, I've been through a divorce.
Yeah.
I've started a business. So I've lost individuals in my life. So a lot of people out there, I know that you guys that are listening, you've been through some of these things. And so you know what she's talking about when she says, that emotional monster is just like, hey, you remember me, here's my friend, Ben, Jerry. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Reese's is here in the house.
Oh, God. No, it's bad. And it's like you don't even realize, and a lot of times if I'm at my new place, it is, I'm home, I'm working, or I'm trying to reorganize, or you're trying to reset, and you're busy. And you are in a state of, I wouldn't say disarray, but not in a state that you're typically used to.
Well, and okay, so here's where, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, is your preparation becomes very important, because remember, when you're proactively planning, then you are reducing the reactive choices, right? And so,
Yeah.
and I think one of the things that Candra and I talked about previously is that, you know, you had, what did you call it? You called it the girl dinner.
Yes.
So
oh my
tell
gosh.
them about the girl dinner, because that's really pretty cool. Not cool and good, but you don't do cool. Okay.
What I find has happened, and this is where I'm here now when I'm like 15 to 18 pounds up and not 30 pounds up is, and I'm like, okay, no, we need to catch this now. But what I find, and I think losing the weight and then gaining, or, you know, starting there, it makes you super self-aware. What I find happening is that now that it's just me, and when my son goes, I don't have to cook. So I find I can work, I try to work more so I don't have to work as much when I do have him. So it's, okay, how much can I get done? And then that busyness creates reactivity. So I don't have to cook. I'm like, okay, what can I get away with? And it's like, oh, I can just eat some turkey and I can just eat this. And then it's like I start reaching for everything, and then you don't realize until the very end, you're like, oh, where did that bag of, like, how did I get, where did the rest of those go? Where did the rest of the Reese's go? But girl dinner is like, oh, I don't have to cook anything. You just start reaching for stuff. And then,
girl dinners are basically like scavenging.
Yeah,
it's like scavenging. You know, it's like you're hustling for, you know, you just, like, it's like our little rodent friend, the squirrel. It's just like, you know, like,
what do I have tucked away?
What do I have tucked away that I can come look for it? Yeah. And that really, and because I can relate to what she's been through, you know, it's very easy to lose sight of yourself in all of that, because you just, it's like a tailspin. If a plane is going through a tailspin, you're just trying to get it straight. It's not like, I'm not making sure people in the back have peanuts. I just want to make sure that we don't crash. Right? So the first thing you're trying to do is just stabilize the plane and stabilize yourself. And so that's really what you were working on. And so then all that other stuff kind of gets put on the back burner a little bit.
So like whenever we lost my mother-in-law, who was so dear to me, I still had a husband to handle and a father-in-law and my son and all those things to handle and take care of. And then I just didn't eat. And so that, I didn't have that factor when that happened. But in the divorce, I have just myself and my son every other week. And so now it creates time when I'm feeling it with busyness. And when you feel it with busyness, it's not, those voids are there. The emotions come in. And it's a different kind of...
It just gives the emotional monster an opportunity to, you know, take advantage of the situation.
Right.
That's how I look at it. Yeah. It's just... And then when your mind is a little bit more idle, you know, that's when you just start, you know, kind of going through all of those things that can create the reactive choices, really.
Right.
You know? So... How has, I mean, we talked a little bit about how it's affected your eating plan. Obviously, you've started doing girl meals. Not advised, okay? Just so that you guys know, guys, not advised.
I have to say this. There's girl meals, and then in the photography world, we call them snake meals.
Okay.
Because
this is all new to me, okay? This is all off script, okay?
In my wedding business, my wedding vendors will know what a snake meal is. It's when you don't eat for a day and a half because you're running, and then you consume 2,000 calories in 20 minutes because you have to get back. So there's either girl meals or there's snake meals.
I thought you were saying it's like you're kind of snaking in between all of the people, the guests, and the, you know, and you're
no,
kind
it's
of
like where you consume, it's where you consume something like
immediately,
and then so fast. So, so the girl meals or snake meals. It's one or the other.
Okay, so please don't do snake meals.
Yeah, don't.
Okay,
That's
I would
really
prefer
not
you not
advised.
to do either one of those.
It just happens,
but how have you started thinking, like, you know, how have you started thinking about, because, you know, we had this conversation like, hey, let's do this virtual visit. Right. Are you okay with this? Let's do this. You know, have you started thinking about what's worked, what hasn't worked? Like, what would be the most successful thing for you right now where you are? You know, like as far as meal planning, eating plan, and all that kind of stuff.
I do. I think that, one, I'm going to have some kind of either pre-prepared meals on hand for when he's not there. That way, what I do reach for is something that is already done.
Yeah.
And I don't have to think about it. And then when he is there, it's going to be me prepping ahead of time, where just more more planning. Okay, I need to have a couple of things on hand for him because he's an 11-year-old boy.
Well, and he's an 11-year-old boy. You want to have
Yeah.
all of those good basic foods, like you want to have that dinner that he's going to feel comfortable with too. You know, but at the same time, you want to be able to be prepared to be healthy.
Right.
You know, in the middle of all that anyway, right?
Correct.
You know, we've talked about this before. We've talked about the fact that meal prep is a mindset, and it changes. It changes through the course of our life. And, you know, I've mentioned this before. I think I had my sister and my brother-in-law on, and we talked about how they started doing the factor meals. They're pre-prepped meals. You can get keto. You can get, where they have like cauliflower rice instead of regular rice, which those are nice because for even me, when I'm very busy with either I'm preparing for an event or I'm got a lot of patients in the office, sometimes I just can't get that prep in. Those are great go-tos, and that may be something to consider. That's a good go-to. It can be a little bit on the pricier side, but when you only have to heat, eat, and repeat, it's worth every dime sometimes when you're that busy.
And for me, it'll be only part-time, which is
great. Right. And like even for you, you know, wedding season.
Yeah.
When the snake thing comes out and you start wanting to do all that crazy.
I don't have a choice there. For us, what we have learned as a team, because I do have a team of girls. We don't, I do a handful of small weddings, but most of our weddings, I mean, like today we booked a wedding for 500 people.
Wow.
And I had to call the entire team and said, okay, we need 6 people for this wedding. And so we've learned that we have to balance each other on who goes where, and then everybody has snacks, and we got to pack. Okay, this is what, and we literally coordinate it that way.
That's awesome. But see, you're proactively planning,
right?
You see, you're just nobody put M&Ms in their bag. You know what I'm saying?
That happens though.
Stop it. All right,
but
she's gonna flunk this. She's gonna flunk this visit.
There's protein and there's bars and there's those things happen too. So there's boundaries. There's boundaries.
Yeah.
There's boundaries.
So originally we did use the triad of treatment. You did use the medication along with the eating plan and the exercise. Exercise-wise, where are we with that? Like, what are we doing now, and what do you think we want to implement further, or do we?
Exercise is a few days a week if it happens, depending on, I mean, right now we're still kind of getting in the groove of things, honestly. I've been doing treadmill. I've been doing weights, which is good.
Weights, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I do like the weights. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I thought about doing a trainer and different stuff, and that may be really great. But I am blessed that I have a cousin who's a trainer, and then we kind of do virtual stuff. But then also, I'm just finding simple workouts on Pinterest.
Oh, let me tell you, and you guys have probably already looked at the exercise podcast that I think went out a couple weeks ago. There's a couple of really good ones. Okay. Angie FitFix is really good. She will put 4 or 5 of them out on Instagram. Mm-hmm. You can just tag it, go back to it. She does all kind of things, so she will focus on different parts of the body, and she'll use dumbbells, which is really good. And I said I was going to come back to this. Candra was previously on a GLP-1, which is the shot, which everybody's aware of. It's Ozempic, Wegovy, Saxenda. I can go on and on. It's all of those guys, right? Mounjaro, all those guys. Here's what everybody needs to understand, and I'm probably going to do a separate podcast just on this because it's so important. When you are on a medicine that creates a lot of weight loss in a short period of time, it's like the Titanic going down. Everybody except the musicians are jumping off, okay? So you got your fat mass and your muscle mass are leaving equally, if not one more than the other. You may be losing more muscle. And if you notice some of those guys that have been on these meds and they're not exercising, they're losing all the big muscles. So their rear end, their legs, and their calves. And that is very important. So the fact that you brought up the weight training is huge, because any weight management plan that you're on, any eating plan you're on to lose weight, it is absolutely essential that you are maintaining your muscle mass. Right. Because that's what burns at a resting rate. Yeah. So when you're sleeping, that's what's burning for you. And so if you have none of that and you get off of any of your meds, or you kind of start, I'm derailing a little bit, the weight gain could be like crazy. It could just be horrible. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. Really, we were supposed to talk about Thor. We'll get to that in a second. Somewhere I'll find a place to talk about him. It's always great to talk about him.
It is.
So I know we talked about maybe considering some medications, and obviously that's an individualized thing for everybody. Right. Do you feel like that there are some strategies that you used previously? Now here's where our perception comes in. If you were perceiving, like, did I have false expectations or preparation or perceptions of what I was doing before? Or is there some things that I think is going to rock this thing, and I think there's some things that I probably would never let resurface again?
I will say let's talk about things that did not work.
Okay.
Things that did not work. Trash eating.
Amen.
And what's funny is that I actually know I have another someone that I am close with that has done the same thing, and she is losing a ton of weight, but she's trash eating. And I tell you, she's not well.
It's not. Okay, remember we talked about this. You're just a smaller version of the same ding dong that you just ate. You literally, if you're not putting the right things in, you're not going to see the results that you're looking for.
Well, I'm thinking that's not long term. Mm-hmm. And I think that what I've seen and what I've learned is that what's going to make this long term, right? So
exactly,
the trash eating is not going to get it long term.
Digit.
The other thing that's not going to make it long term is exercising like an Olympic athlete.
Digit.
So I agree. I did that for a long time, and I would lose the weight, and ultimately you can't. That's not realistic.
You need something sustainable,
right? So
by all means, please, for the love of God, please listen to me. Do something you love.
Yeah. Do
something you love to do. If you hate the exercise you're doing, just give it up. Don't do it. You know.
Well, some of us hate all exercise.
But you did not hear that. I'm sorry. We're going to bleep right over that.
Well, anyway.
Do the one that you love the most and dislike the least.
Okay. We'll go with that.
We'll agree to disagree on that one.
Well, that's things that don't work. What does work is consistency.
Yes.
Even if it's, even if it's just starting with one thing consistent.
At one small step.
For me, it was, and this may sound just silly, but like there were these pre-packaged small steaks that came in like a 2-pack, and I remember thinking, okay, I can eat that twice a week, or like I can cut it in half, and that's my meal that's my protein portion. I know that's what I need. I can do that with
a veggie or some kind of complex
like the
carb.
Steam in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, I can do that.
It's easy.
And so the other thing is I don't eat salad. Like none of it. Like unless you put enough pickles on it to call it a salad.
Which is basically a hamburger then. Okay.
Right? I don't. And so what I will do is I will eat like I will try to find some other vegetable or something to kind of eat in the place.
Which is fair. That's fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
you got to find what works for you. I mean,
right.
But remember, and we've talked about this in one of the previous podcasts too, is that you want to get a good portion size of the veggies. Like remember, half your plate, half moon should be all dedicated to vegetables. So. I don't care if somebody ate green beans until they were like, okay, so help me. If somebody even shows me a green bean, I'm going to lose my stuff. I would rather you get burnt out on one thing, but eating one thing consistently, but getting that veggie in, than to try all these things that you just don't like. And then not that I'm not opposed to variation, because I think variation is very important, but your small step, if it's just the only thing I like is green beans and broccoli, then that's fine. Yeah. Start there.
One thing that one thing that I have that has worked for me too is I found that I raided my mom's freezer.
Okay.
And that's not the cheat. It kind of is. But I realized I found a new source for vegetables, and I found that they go to a farm out in Mississippi, and they get their fresh vegetables, and it's within driving distance. And I'm like, okay, I can go do that and get bags.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, and then I can proportion it out to where it's like, okay, I can just dump this, and it's done in 7 minutes. So, and it's not just green beans. So those things are
That's awesome. You don't have to eat the salad if you eat the green beans and the broccoli.
Right. Anyway. So yeah, anyway, it works. There's little things that I have found that work.
Anything else that works?
Listening to you. I hate that. As
That
bad
was not
as
staged.
It's bad. Sometimes as bad as I hate to admit it. Kelly is right 98.8% of the time.
So maybe Brian is listening to this, if you are. Just so you know.
Yeah.
No, in all seriousness, what she's saying is, though, you've got people in your life that are there to help you.
Yeah.
And we're not there to be the main character in your story. We're here to be supporting characters in your story. So
Right.
I'm here to be your supporting character, but the supporting character has lines.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sometimes that main character needs to hear the lines and say, ooh, I might need to put some of these things in place. You know, or I
Yeah.
never thought about that. Yeah, it took a little while for her to hear that first go round, though. I was like,
Hey.
stop, get in this office right now.
Well, and I think too, again, going back to being, you know, when you're a working mom or when we're moms, it's so funny. I had a conversation with another friend of ours the other day, and she's in her 40s, and her twins are now 6 years old. But she was like, she didn't know she was pregnant with the twins
Mm-hmm.
until she was 5.5, 6 months along,
Oh my gosh.
and she already had 3 girls.
I would
And
have had to
she's
be sedated for the last 3 months.
Oh, it was bad. Sorry, she had twins. I'm sorry. She didn't know she was pregnant with the last girl
Okay.
until she was 5 or 6 months along. And I was like, she's like, of course we didn't know. None of us know because you can't.
You're just so busy.
You're so busy. You think everything that you're going through is, oh, that's just one more thing that a mom is dealing with, right? And at this age, of course it's normal to skip a period. Of course
it's normal to be throwing up from like, you know, for like
Right?
6 weeks.
So,
of course it's I want to sleep on the sofa
I
at
think-
5 o'clock in the afternoon.
I think the takeaway from this is definitely listen to Kelly. And I mean, if you want to lose an extra, 40 pounds, and listen to your body and take that time to say, okay, you know what, it's time. She's right most of the time. Maybe I should actually listen to my provider and do the regimen that she's requesting, and I'm not,
So on that note, what are we gonna do? What's the plan? Like, we gotta have a plan. We gotta leave this visit
Okay.
with a plan. So what does Candra's plan look like at this point?
All right. So you and I are going to work on
Medication.
medication portion of it, and accountability, because we're going to text each other.
Of course. That'll happen.
Because I always need the extra help. And
It's
then,
like, phone date.
yeah. And then I think the other part of it is the meal prep portion of it.
And, like we talked about this, it's a mindset more
Yeah.
than it is an actual labor of love. It is a mindset. So what's going to work for you right now? And then you have to think about, what can I sustain?
Yeah.
What's feasible? What's economical? There are a lot of factors that go into that. And then putting that plan, the plan that you had 10 years ago, right? It's 8 to 10 years ago, is not the same plan.
Not
And that's
at all.
okay. I want you guys to know, I feel like it's just her and I right now. So it's like, but the plan that you had 8 years ago may have been very successful for you, and that's okay. If you can go back to that and see the same success, great. But if life is different, there are different circumstances in your life that are dictating changes, it's okay to make those changes. I think that's the important thing, really. So is there anything else that you would like to add if you've got this opportunity, you've got an open mic,
Oh, God.
be careful, to tell the Hangry Game Nation to further motivate them?
Oh, I think I would say, if I just to tell anything to the Hangry Game Nation, I guess I would say that listen to your body, listen to your providers, and it only works if you do.
Love that. I'm taking it. I am taking it.
You can take
Thanks again, Candra, for your enthusiasm, willingness to be vulnerable, because it's a lot for somebody to step out in this situation and just talk about some of the things that, not just that you went through, but that you're still kind of going through. Guys, we will all experience, obviously, ups and downs, or that wrecking ball that we talked about in this journey. Just remember, for every peak that you experience, there's usually going to be a valley before it, and there may be likely a valley after it. And it's how we prepare for that which will really make the difference on our long-term success with wellness and weight loss. The takeaways for today are easy. If you have fallen and you feel like you can't get up, call someone. Your friend, your designated eater, or your provider, and get up, shake the dust off, take it off that rear end of yours, and get back into the routine as soon as possible. Know that you're not alone, and there are always resources and individuals that are there to help you and encourage you along the way. Always. Check out our prepforit.com for more resources for this wellness and weight loss journey that you're on. Usually I would say something like this at the end. Lay of the flavor, people, but today I'm going to use a Candraism. It only works if you do. Wow, that was powerful. I'm so excited. Have a great one, and we are out.